Hello. Hi out there. Welcome. My name's Dr. Rock. That's spelled R-A-K, pronounced R-O-C-K. And I am a lifestyle medicine physician with Mora here for our weekly live stream. And we come to you every week at this time, Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, to answer your questions about lifestyle medicine, about plant-based eating. And today, I may be the only one on. Normally, we have a conversation with one of my colleagues, but it's a little bit busy morning for everyone, but that's cool. I'm here with you. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Reminder, we are Mora Medical. You can find us at Mora.com. At Mora, we help you live the life that you want to live, the life that is full of energy and vitality. And the way we do that is by helping you change your lifestyle habits. You can reverse chronic disease, you can lose weight, and you can live a more fulfilling life. So find us at Mora.com. We lead group visits, and we also have one-on-one visits with lifestyle medicine, board certified lifestyle medicine physicians and physician assistants, just like myself. So welcome everyone who's watching either live or watching this recording. Today I was going to talk about lapses and relapses. Sort of this idea, when we think about behavior change, we think about classically we think about there's stages of behavior change. There's a model, that trans theoretical model that we use very commonly when we think about this, where first someone's thinking about changing, and then first actually they may not even be aware that they need to make a change. We call that pre-contemplative, and then maybe something happens where you're like, in medical school we learned about this through smoking. That was sort of the classic example, right? Someone's smoking, they don't think they have a problem, they're pre-contemplative. Then like something happens for some reason where they start thinking, and smoking's an obvious one. Like everybody knows that smoking's not good for you. So many smokers are contemplative, where they say, I know I should quit, but I'm not there yet. I need to think about it. You're contemplating it, right? And then after that, if you make the decision to quit, and that's a big deal, then you don't just necessarily jump in and say like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to quit. Some people do that, but we know from like research and from experience that people who are prepared, people who set a quit date, people who talk to their doctor and maybe get, for example, nicotine patches or a medication or both, or behavioral therapy or coaching, these folks do better. And so there's this preparation phase where you're sort of preparing for the change that you want to make. And then you move on to the action phase, right? So action is when I'm ready, I picked my quit date. Okay, now I've quit. I'm doing this counseling, and I'm using nicotine gum, and that you have your action phase. Okay. And then it keeps going to the point where like you're kind of finished with the gum, and you're not smoking anymore. And that's what we call the maintenance phase, right? Like maintaining the new behavior, the new habit, which is not smoking. And then after that, you'd say, okay, that's great. I'm maintaining, I'm good, right? But here's the funny thing about human beings is that we often stop doing the thing that is good for us. And why does that happen, right? Why do old habits come back? So this is what we call relapse in the stages of change model, you know? And what I love, first of all, is that relapse is part of the model, right? That's something we expect. And I should say, all these stages, you can go in and out of them backwards and forwards, certainly, but it sort of works circular. And it depends on the change you're making. If you're preparation, if you're trying to get a new habit of, I don't know, hanging your jacket when you come home, like, because the jacket, you're just otherwise throwing it. That may not be a very hard habit. You may just need to cue yourself. There's not a big contemplative or preparation stage for that, right? You're just going to go ahead and start it and then see how it goes and and maybe you have to put a little note for yourself or something, but pretty soon it'll develop, and if it's important to you, you'll be maintaining it. But maybe one day you come home and things are out of sorts and you just forget and you throw it out on the floor, your jacket, right? That's a lapse. So the first thing I'll say is there's lapses and then there's relapses. Okay, so if the smoker, we'll go back to the smoker, right? If the smoker um, has spent 10 months not smoking, and then one night is out to dinner and with several friends who smoke, and then in that moment has a lapse, right? And actually like has a bit of a friend's cigarette or something. Has a bit of a friend's cigarette. That is a lapse. That happened. Person can reflect. Why did that happen? Oh, I was around people that were doing it. Maybe that person had I don't know, a cocktail or something at dinner, and that made their judgment. You could see. Um, what makes it a relapse is if that guy goes home and then on the way home stops at a store to buy a pack of cigarettes. And then pretty soon after, within a few days, is having, half a pack a day, and gets to the end of the month and sort of realizes, wow, I'm smoking again, right? So lapses are oftentimes expected too. They're expected. But one point I'll make here is a lapse doesn't have to become a relapse. So part of this is like having the awareness, like, what am I, what have I been working on? What's the new habit I'm trying to make? Why am I doing it? And, how's it going? And if I have a slip up, that's what you can call a lapse, a slip up, like what am I so I'm curious if anyone's watching and they want to share their experience with lapses or relapses and how they sort of get back on track. I'd love to hear it. And also, if you have any questions, if you have any lifestyle medicine related questions, please feel free. I want to remind you, we are Mora Medical. Mora, Mora. You can find us at mora.com. And we help you make lifestyle changes. We help you reverse disease, lose weight, and live a happy, healthy life, the life that you want to live. And uh, it's really incredible to be a part of, I would say, this movement of lifestyle medicine, because lifestyle medicine is, really focusing on health and well-being, and how it's not just the absence of disease, right? We have a healthcare system that I think where health has become synonymous with like not having disease. Well, we want to reverse your disease, and we want to help prevent any, chronic disease, certainly, and then even go beyond that and live a life where you can do the things that you want to do. I have so many patients who tell me they want to travel well into their 70s, 80s, 90s. They're traveling now all the time, and that's important to them. They want to enjoy their retirement. So this is the promise you get from taking control of your lifestyle habits. And as I said, we lead group visits, group medical appointments, where you have this supportive community and a facilitator who's a lifestyle medicine board certified physician or physician assistant. And we come together on a regular basis to hold accountability for each other, to help you and guide you in your behavior change. And then inevitably, to share our successes. Of course, we celebrate our wins, and inevitably to also share our challenges. And so today I'm talking about lapses and relapses. And this idea that, all things can be going great, but we all know, right, that life happens. Life happens, something major happens, somebody gets sick in your family, or something happens to the home, water dam, there's so many things that come up, right? And then all of a sudden you find yourself like eating the foods that you didn't think you wanted to eat anymore, and you thought, oh, I stopped eating these things. And so really the first thing I was saying before is like being aware of that. Okay, I've fallen back, I've had a lapse. Now what you do with that is like deconstruct it. Why is that? Why did that happen? Why? Oh, the stress is really affecting me, and I know that when I'm really stressed, I reach for sweets, I reach for packaged snacks or whatever it is. Okay, how else might I deal with that stress right now so that this doesn't become the new habit? Because I have to remind myself, I don't want this to be the habit. I worked really hard for this not to be the habit, right? So in saying that, you're sort of asking yourself, like, how do I get back to maintenance, right? How do I get back to where this becomes? First, I would say show yourself grace. If something else stressful, major is happening in your life, recognize that and that you're having a hard time, right? This is an opportunity where I remind ourselves, like, show yourself self-compassion. And that isn't to say like that gives you, a blank check to sort of go back to doing whatever you want to do. No, in fact, you're just meeting yourself in the moment where you're at, right? You're saying, okay, this is a moment where I'm struggling right now. This is a moment where something really hard is happening right now. Okay, what am I going to do about it? Right? What can I do that, and is going back to the way I used to eat, going back to smoking or going back to drinking, like, is that going to help me in this moment? No, and having that conversation with yourself, and also just talking to yourself with compassion, like how you would talk to a friend. Because if a friend was going through that, you would sort of gently remind them. You would say, first of all, yeah, I hear you're going through a really hard time right now. And you've told me so many times in the past why changing your lifestyle is so important to you, why it gives you so much more fulfillment out of your life. That's how I would talk to a friend, to remind myself. Because sometimes to ourselves, we say, can't believe you did that. That was so stupid. That was so stupid. Why'd you do that? Like, you're gonna ruin everything. These are the ways that people talk to themselves. And when you talk to yourself, it leads to those feelings of shame and guilt. Those are not the feelings that actually help you get out of the relapse. Feelings of shame and guilt are the emotions that actually keep you in it, right? Very often when we feel those things, when I feel shameful that I did something wrong, and I make myself feel that, I reinforce that with my thoughts and the story I'm telling myself. Well, guess what? Those are exactly the feelings that make me want to go back to the bad habit I was doing before. So that's just only gonna often compound the relapse. And before you know it, you're sort of like, days, weeks later, you're sort of like, how did I come back to this? And that can be a huge struggle also, because when we look back at the model, then it sort of can repeat itself. You might have to go back to sort of preparing for the change again. You might realize many weeks later, wow, I'm not where I wanted to be. I'm not where I wanted to be with my diet. I'm not where I wanted to be with my movement. I've been smoking, half a pack for the last month. Like, okay, let me remind myself about the first time I made this change. What were the things that were successful when I was preparing? Why did I even make the change in the first place? I think kind of rooting yourself in your why is one of the really important ways you also get yourself out of that relapse, right? You sort of remind yourself. What I like to say is it's a recommittal. You're recommitting to the reasons that you're making these changes in the first place. Oh, because I want to be around for my kids. I want to serve as a model of health for my kids, for my grandkids. I want to be I work in a job that's super demanding physically, and for me to show up every day, I need to be on my game. Just whatever your reason, really recommitting, reminding yourself, and then starting and meeting yourself where you're at. Okay, this last month didn't go as planned. This last month didn't go as planned, but I'm going to make a plan to get back to where I know I can go, where I was feeling so good. And if that means starting really small, if that means, like I get out of my meditation. For me, for example, I get out of my meditation habit. Here I am, like sort of often talking to patients about the value of mindfulness. It's so incredible. And then something may happen where your life gets a little turned upside down. And before I know it, that morning practice, which was setting my day up for success and creating this higher energy in my life, I'm not doing it, or I'm not doing it consistently. And so one is just recognizing, wow, I'm not doing that, and how is my life being affected by that? Well, wow, I was just like short with my kids this morning, or I just got into an argument with my wife last night. Whatever it is, like those types of things happen. I know so it's awareness, and then it's a reminder, like, why was I doing it in the first place? Oh, I'm just happier when those things don't happen. I'm just happy. It helps me stay in the present moment. It helps me be more aware of what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then there's this recommittal. Okay, I'm going to start. But maybe 2 months ago, I was doing 30 minutes every morning. Well, yeah, I'm going to make it a goal just to do 5 minutes, just to do 2 minutes, just to find some period of time, ideally in the morning. But if it doesn't happen in the morning, later in the day, where I take 1 or 2 minutes just to be still. And from there, I can remind myself, wow, I really actually do enjoy this. Like, this actually makes me feel good. Often we can look at healthy habits as chores or punishments. Often they're framed that way. And so coming back to something like that, you're like, I have so many chores to do right now. So just reorienting yourself, getting back into the experience, like eating healthier, and then remembering, wow, this makes me feel so energized. Or, oh, and I have some folks in the chat. Um, share on video. I'm not sure what that means, but here we have Debbie. Debbie says, wanting cake and ice cream as treats. Uh, so try that, and then stomach hurts. Ah, okay. Thanks for sharing that, Debbie. Debbie has shared what happens often is that we may have a lapse, and then in that lapse, we may enjoy it in the moment. Like, sounds like Debbie had some desserts, and then later, sort of connect with how we feel. Right. So I think this is a very useful strategy to catch a lapse and prevent it from getting into a relapse. Is if you recognize that suddenly, like hours later, the next day, like Debbie's saying, she had a stomach ache, that food, whatever you ate, it doesn't make you feel good. Right. It tastes good. It gives you that dopamine hit in the moment, but it doesn't make you feel good. So, thank you, Debbie. That's a really good reminder that, sort of having that awareness of how, not just how things feel in the moment, but how we feel afterwards, how we might feel later that day, that night, the next day. Because I say, like, the same thing with the smoker, go back to that example. They may then realize that they're getting cravings and that they're having sort of these withdrawal symptoms when they don't go a certain period of time. And if you're aware of that, it's a reminder, like, I didn't like feeling this way. I didn't like the power that cigarettes had on me in my life. Let's see. Someone on Facebook says, I find keeping no junk around or prepack anything works good. Um, yeah, that's a really good point. It goes back to sort of controlling your environment, right? So if you don't bring it in your house, if you don't have it in your pantry. Now, sometimes we don't have control over that because other people are bringing. I'm often reminded my children, they, as much as we, want to avoid that stuff, there's still even like quote unquote healthy packaged food that's got like, agave instead of sugar. It's not better for you, but it's organic wheat and whatever. Anyway, so that stuff, I don't want to eat that stuff either. So yeah, but controlling your environment, that also gets into sort of when you're thinking about the change you're making, how to set yourself up for success, right? So how do you, if you're trying to change your diet, like how do you have the most control over your environment so that the choices you make are going to default ideally to the healthy choice? So putting all the fruit out, cutting up like carrots and peppers and things like that, and having them readily available, and then not having the stuff you don't want to have available. I mean, already then, like, you're not relying on willpower, right? I like to say you're relying on skill power because you're sort of setting yourself up for success. Okay, so lapses will happen, relapses will happen to all of us, and that's why the model sort of tells us let's let's prepare for it, let's expect it. I don't think, I mean, it's rare that somebody makes a big change, like a change, a lifestyle change that is new for them, where they don't go through some ups and downs, right? Where they don't have some lapses and relapses. And you can hope for the best, obviously. I always hope for the best, that I'm going to be consistent, that this new change is going to stick, that I'm only going to progress. And you 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 can also, like, in the moment, expect and know that nobody's perfect, and meet yourself where you're at, and then prepare for it. Let's see. Somebody on Facebook says, I'm grabbing an orange for a craving, or cucumbers with hummus. Yeah, that's right. It's having those things on hand. One of the things I like to say, just as an aside, is when we're making behavior change, it's always better to uh, have a replacement habit. So if you're trying to remove something, ideally have a replacement habit. And ideally, that replacement habit should be something that's also good for you. So I used to eat candy bars. I used to love Snickers bars, right? And if I'm being completely honest, this is like what I was talking about, my kids' snacks. A Cliff Bar is not that much healthier than a Snicker. Like, it has organic cane sugar and whatever. So, like, nothing against Cliff, like, but it's a lot of refined sugar, and there's added oils, and so again, not necessarily the thing I want to eat. So that would be an example of a replacement, but I would argue not necessarily one that's also promoting your best health. So, but then there are these, bars you can get, which are literally 2 or 3 ingredients, right? That are just dried fruit and nuts, and that's it. And if you find one you really like, then that's something, you're not going to eat a ton of those. But if you're trying to fuel yourself, for example, for movement or something, that's a way better choice than eating a candy bar. So, and if you enjoy it, then it makes the transition or the change so much easier, because you're like, not now in the moment thinking I really want a candy bar. You're like, oh, I'm eating something sweet and a little salty and with nuts, and it's not exactly the same, but it meets that craving. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna just wrap up by telling you again that we're Mora Medical, and please share this stream, share our service with people you know. Everybody knows somebody at this point, either yourself or somebody who who has chronic disease, who has lifestyle related chronic disease. And I say that because 80% of the chronic diseases that we take care of in this country, meaning heart disease and high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, these are caused by lifestyle related factors. These are caused by the food we eat, how we move our body, how we manage stress. And Modern medical care, unfortunately, for the most part, doesn't address those things. So what ends up happening is we manage disease. We manage disease, modern healthcare, we manage disease with medication. Um, and that doesn't reverse the disease. That doesn't get rid of the disease. So what we're seeing is just more and more and more disease in the general population. And that trend continues to the point where it's overwhelming the healthcare system. It's overwhelming the healthcare system. It's overwhelming the people that work in the healthcare system. It's certainly gotten to be very, very expensive. And so Mora was created because we want to be a part of this powerful solution. What is the solution? The solution is getting at the root cause of illness. If 80% of the disease is caused by these lifestyle related factors, then I would argue that 80% of our care should be focused on the lifestyle related factors and supporting people to make change in the right way. It's not just, I often like to when I'm a new patient start, I tell them, people don't make change because you're not going to make changes because I'm telling you what to do. Of course, you came to me because you want some guidance, what are the best changes to make? But the changes are going to come because of our conversations and your conversations with other people in the group that lead you to recognize why it's important for you to make change and what the small steps are so that you can move forward and prove to yourself that you're someone that's able to do this. And so that's what lifestyle medical care looks like. It's not just telling you what to do, it's actually supporting you in making those changes. So come join us, Mora Medical, Mora.com. Happy to see you. We're in ever-growing number of states, but right now, and accepting insurance. I want to point out that's what makes us different. We accept most forms of health insurance. We're in California, Texas, Florida, New York, Ohio. We can see patients in Utah and Colorado. And that number of states is starting to continue to grow. So really appreciate all the folks that watched today, and really appreciated the comments and the discussion. And that's a wrap, I guess. So I'll see you here next week. Hopefully I'll have a colleague who comes by, and you can see us and find us here on YouTube and Facebook every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And happy to help you take control of your health and change your life. So come find us at Mora.com. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.